Ba-ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba! Oh, it has been a number of days, a number of weeks, but guess what, my lovely, lovely friends? The two Revs are back in town. The boys are back in town. We had a countdown. There is a 15-second countdown at the beginning and then another 10-second, and it still takes forever to come on. So that's winding Kazza up. Good to see you, everyone. Tony. Good afternoon, my friend.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. How are you, sir?
I am so glad to be back with your good self and all of these lovely people coming along. Let's get them up on the screen. We know they like a good. They like a good. There you go. We split it in three. You, me, and the crew. And Kaz has brought some friends, so excellent stuff. But hello, how have you been, darling?
I've been up and down over the last couple of weeks, but on the whole, positive.
Yes.
It's been a bit of a roller coaster, a bit of mixed emotions, but on the whole, faith in humanity has been restored-ish.
Yes. And I do want to come to that, and share a little bit of a strange twist in the tale, in terms of what I've been doing with my time and how that relates to that, because it just shows like today's song, for example, Faith of the Heart. They've been on one, up in the world of spirit. As I said 2 days ago, I don't know what they've been taking, but I want some. And so with that said, before we dive into that, I think we should do what we always do, the most important part, and say hello to a few friends. So if you are watching, I know there's more people watching than saying hello, because I can see the numbers. So say hello, what's your name, where you come from, let us know you're watching, get involved in the conversation. This is your show. We talk, we listen, we discuss, you lead the conversation. So right there, up at the beginning, you could tell what the countdown and how it ended. And roll them, Nick, or go, or whenever you like then. There seems to be a bit of an elongated delay from when we start and when it starts playing on the platforms, because there's a 15-second countdown at the beginning, then there's another 10-second countdown within the opening sequence, and the email that pops up on my screen that says YouTube is connected comes around about the middle of that second countdown. So I might lengthen the first countdown a little longer just to make sure it ties in a bit better.
Yes.
Hello, Kazza. Good morning, sis.
And then we have Carol. Hooray, rev it up, lads. We are and we will.
Oh, yes. And Sherry Ann, Reverend. It's Happy Friday, the two Revs and everyone. Hello, darling. Nice to see you. Sorry about your internet again, dear. She's having Eleanor troubles.
I saw her on Facebook.
Yeah. Oh, bless
shocking.
her. Hello, Tony.
Hello, Nick. Then we have Mama Brown. Hello.
Hi, Mum. And, of course, Joseph Pritchard. Hello to you. Who just does clarify, I'm a Kazza friend. We're all Kazza friends on here, mate. Welcome to the family. Good to see you. Bit of an exchange and conversation.
Yeah. Is Jean the next one?
There's Jean. There she is. Hello, darling. Hello, darling. Good to see you. And yes, I'm still confused by the on-screen conversation being upside down compared to the one that I have to click to bring them up. It does get confusing.
It's very strange. Very, very strange indeed.
Absolutely. But all the way from Scotland down to the south coast, we have got all beyond into the French countryside. We are gathering together to raise the vibrations and have a good old chinwag about life and put the world to rights. Kaz is
Yes,
in her fourth. Oh yeah, Kaz is in her fourth house, not Mama Brown's. Because, of course, the last time we were actually together.
we were in Littleport Village Hall, which
Yes,
was amazing. Absolutely
it
amazing. It was brilliant.
absolutely was because we didn't. There is a video that is doing the rounds
Yes.
of my reaction to the surprise of Kaz in Mama Brown's living room, but
Yeah.
nobody had told me was going on. So it was a wonderful surprise.
No, nor me.
Well, the thing was, we tried to surprise you, didn't we? By having a lay down in the back seat. There was something on the seat next to us, so she couldn't lay down properly. And you were already up by the front door, which is at a higher level.
Yes.
So you were looking down into the car, so you could see Kazza laying down on the back seat. That was your.
But I couldn't see who it was because all I could see was the back of her head. And then as she sat up, I was like, oh my. At least I didn't deletive expletive. Like,
I did. Confession time. I expletified the situation. I really, really did.
yes.
But we had a wonderful, wonderful night that night. After the service, I gave Kazza the grand tour of Littleport, which took all of 13 and a half minutes. Because it's not the biggest of locations, but there is a lot to see.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we had a bit of a grand tour of Littleport. And then after the next morning we all had a bit of a gathering and had some breakfast with Kazza before she jumped back in the train and went all the way back to Forfar.
Yes.
And yes, there's a lot of internet issues because Kazza and Sherry-Ann are both having problems with Tolt
Wow.
internet.
That's not good. Not good at all.
Nick looked like he was being attacked by a lion. Yeah. Well, I reacted, and then I saw the phone nestled in the armpit. You see, so it was like, ah! Ah! So it was a bit of a surprise, but it was a wonderful surprise, and
Wasn't it just?
it's
It was amazing.
and I've had a couple of nice surprises since then as well. Trace, who's in Circle, she doesn't have as far to come, bless her. My bluehead minister extraordinaire. She lives in Bedford, but her mum lives in Ely Soham. I can't remember. I think it's Ely now. Used to be Soham. She came to church last night to see the lovely Shelley Yule, who was her typical graceful and wonderful self, and it was an absolute pleasure to chair for her. And so it's been a bit of an adventure on the normal run of the mill things, especially as I don't have a car at the moment. Bit annoyed.
Oh, is it
It's
poorly?
it's very poorly, but that should be fixed next week in time for me to serve Huntington the week after. So it's but there we are. But once again, friends, if you're online and joining in, do say hello. Let us know that you're here. We'll stop off and say hello to any late arrivals as the conversation goes. But I think we really should dive straight into it.
Definitely. Definitely.
One of the I'm reminded, ironically, there's an old saying that was written down as being quoted by one of the founders of modern spiritualism in the UK, the lovely Emma Hardinge Britten. Northern Lass says it as it is. She went on record as saying, "Spiritualism is a perfect religion." Spiritualists, on the other hand, might not always be so. And there has been a lot of difficulty, a lot of division, and a lot of separation within this way of life for many different reasons over the last couple of weeks. And there is a song that I'd love to pick if they'd let me, but they won't because they haven't put it up on the radio yet. But I used to be a big fan of a lot of heavy metal pop groups. I liked Guns and Roses, or as we used to write on the desk, G and F and R. And you'll just have to Google that if you want to know what that means. A bit of Red Hot Chili Peppers. This was my teenage years. And there is a song that Guns N' Roses had on their album, The Spaghetti Incident, and how I can remember that, God only knows. But the line goes, "What we have here is a failure to communicate." And I think that is pretty much at the root of everything, a failure to communicate.
Yeah.
And to see, in particular within the spiritualist movement, where communication is the core of everything we do, to see a failure to communicate, I think is a huge letdown to our side and the way of life. Yeah, Guns N' Roses, that is the name of the song, Kazat. That is literally the name of the song. And so, yeah, I think that from what I've witnessed and what I've seen, the problem is a failure to communicate. What are your thoughts, Tony?
I know exactly what you're talking about, and yes, I think that whole scenario could have been avoided with clearer and more open lines of communication. And like you say, for a religion based around communication and healing, it was a bit surprising.
Absolutely. And I actually think that the same issue applies really to everything that's been going on inside and outside our movement. Maybe even more so.
Yes.
I think it's a little bit more obvious and a little bit more personally wounding when it's this way of life that is that problem.
Yes.
But I certainly think it is what has spilled over, because if you go way back to the beginning of last week and the week before, you've got information being shared that isn't true, and people failing to accept that information was not true. You've then got an absolutely horrendous circumstance with loss of young life in particular, where there was again information shared that just blatantly wasn't true. And we like a simple life, we humans. We like it easy, we like it obvious. So, and this is something that I said in Circle the other day, memes are not good communication unless you're telling a joke.
Yes.
Like, for instance, the image that I shared on lovely Matthew Stapley's page the other day. Karen! Karen and I are back together on Monday. Hello, Karen. Good to see you. Welcome
Amazing.
along. I shared a meme on Reverend Matthew Stapley's page. He just basically said, let's have a meme conglomerative. Something funny, something humorous, something uplifting, share away. So there was me posting a picture of Commander Riker, Lieutenant Data, and Councillor Troy on there, looking at the camera with the words, keep scrolling, we're trying to get to the bridge. And, something a bit funny, a bit giggly.
Yeah.
When memes work, it's when it's humour. Memes do not always work when you are trying to convey important information. And so there's very rarely a time in our lives when a situation is unnuanced. Um, Hello to Sarah. Good on you. Good to see you, Sarah. And Neil Payne, your hometown made you proud, my son. Your hometown made you proud. Um, I've got to say that one little. Oh, there was some TikTok lives going on, and did you get what you came for? Big boy echoed across the crowds, and I have to admit that was the first time in a fortnight I'd laughed. But I
Yeah,
think at the root of everything is this failure to communicate and taking everything we see at face value. As mediums, we are trained to verify, to check, to double check, to make sure that we're interpreting what we're hearing and to make sure that we are hearing what is being said. And so memes don't cut it, little buzzwords don't cut it. And the amount of people that can set themselves up as a news channel these days is horrendous. And I think it is hugely damaging because everyone ends up getting riled up, caught up. And I think that is where we go back to the infamous words of Guns N' Roses. What we have here is a failure to communicate.
yeah,
And in
absolutely
amongst all of that, the important things are being forgotten, like those poor girls and their families.
absolutely. To me, that's the core of it. There's a group of grieving families whose grief has been overshadowed by this chaos and riots. And I do agree to a point with Sarah about it's willful damage that's being caused by people, when what we should be doing is coming together as a country to support a grieving family of 3 young girls who were killed in the most horrific circumstance.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you know what? I think from what we have seen that has been able to be verified properly, I think in terms of, and what I just want to go back to that. No one, and I mean no one, sets out to cause damage like that unless they are not in their right mind. They certainly weren't representing the actual argument that was going on, because if they were, they wouldn't have been dosing themselves up on sausage rolls and bath bombs. And you know, it just shows that there are some extremely selfish people out there who love to go to town and on other people's pain. And hello to Ashley Oliver, and hello to
Absolutely.
Eunice. And I'm assuming Tony's with us. She hasn't said so. But yeah, I agree that anyone who acts like that, Sarah, has got a massive need of something. And again, it always comes back, and I've got to try and balance. There are sometimes, as you know, especially on here, Tony, I always try and play the devil's advocate in situations. I can't in that, because
No,
there is just absolutely no excuse for wanton violence and vandalism, and I cannot even try to pretend to play devil's advocate on that,
no,
because they. But again, what we do have to do is walk down this spiritual path and say hate is not the opposite of, and I did see someone say something about this. Hate is not the opposite of love. Hate is the absence of love.
yeah,
And if we are to move forward, then everybody needs guiding with compassion and kindness, and lead by this example of bringing people back into a place where the world and the universe is not against them. Because you've got people out there, and again, it's within this way of life as well. Um, Everything's being hidden from us. We're all being lied to, and it just doesn't help. And it's like a witch's brew of hatred, that no genuine witch would actually brew. Let's be honest. I
No,
think even
no,
even those that dabble with the dark arts would have left all of that well alone. But certainly there are some difficult situations and some difficult conversations to be had. And you know, the one song that I hoped that would come up this week was "Sorry Seems to Be the Hardest Word," because that is definitely an issue right now,
yeah,
because people don't like being wrong.
no, no,
And that is, you know, it. I don't expect, and I've never expected, and there have been many occasions on even this show where not everybody's agreed. Oh, I'm not so sure about that. Oh, I don't know whether I can sit with that. Oh no, I. But when have we ever descended into a slanging match? When have we ever
no.
gone down the pan of decency being thrown out the window? It's always been respectful, polite conversation, and sometimes you do have to agree to disagree, but agreeing to disagree does not mean picking up heavy objects and chucking them as hard as you can at another person.
Yeah.
Um,
Or defenseless horse.
or yes,
Uh,
defenseless horse.
we drove past where everything was happening on Sunday, and I have to say my heart broke, because just to pick up a point by our sister up in the Highlands, look at the hate we're breeding. Well, not just that, there were children on father's shoulders watching the hotel on fire with people trapped inside. I
Yes.
mean, it's not just we're feeding it, and we're leading lives that lead to these things, because it's we are instilling that in the next generation.
That is literally the look at what we breed. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And my point to somebody the other day was, I mean, I speak to my father and I say, "Oh, do you remember when we went up onto Dunstable Downs and watched the gliders going off the hills there and things? Can you imagine? Oh, Dad, do you remember when you took me down to Manvers and watched us burn the hotel down? What? What
Mm,
kind of, you know, connection is that to hold in your heart? It just, oh, yes,
comment from now.
yeah, we've not agreed. We've not agreed, but we still love each other, Kaz, and we still respect each other's. Exactly, Michael.
Yeah.
And uh, there's a way to, and I think it was yourself, Nick, we were speaking to earlier in the week, when you messaged something like, I've disagreed with a lot of people over the last few days, but we've never descended into name
Yes.
calling and abuse. You don't
Yeah.
have to do that. If they'd been sat outside all of these places with placards, being quiet and peaceful or chanting, fine.
Yeah.
We've said it before on this show, Nick, that we will fight to the death for people's right for freedom of speech.
Yes. And we
But
we I
not,
maintain that.
I do, but not that.
Yeah.
That was not free speech. That was hate,
That
and that
that
was
was a free
violence.
for that was a free for all, and
Yeah.
it was not about making a statement.
No.
And you know what?
Any valid point they may have had, the moment somebody picked up a brick or set fire to a wheelie bin and shoved it through a broken window,
Yeah.
was lost.
I actually,
Absolutely
yeah,
lost.
one of the groups of people that I do feel sorry for are the people who have a genuine concern and a genuine grievance, who wishes to discuss their feelings and thoughts in an open and polite way. Because what has happened here has undermined their ability to do that. Because there is an element of polarization in the opposite way, that anyone who does have concerns is part of that group. I want to say quite categorically on record, I don't believe that. I've always talked about the spectrum. There are people that are going to have concerns. Everyone's experiences and situations are unique and individual. But
Mhm.
that does not does not and will never give anyone the right to descend. I mean, look, perfect example. We're defending our country was one of the chants from those rioters as they set fire to hotels, to police stations, to people's livelihoods. That's not defending the country. That's anarchy.
Yeah. Now, our MP is actually the current Secretary for Defence.
Ah, yes.
And we asked what he was doing to defend the country from itself, because you know that's what it was. It was an attack on people's livelihoods, and like you said, the picture of that person leaving Greg's with a tray full of gingerbread men and sausage rolls just begged belief, because I thought, what? Sorry, Gov, but no, I wasn't jumping on the bandwagon. I just saw an opportunity and fancied a sausage roll and a gingerbread man, so I took it.
Absolutely, and yeah, you're absolutely right, Sarah. That is the difference.
Yeah.
It really, really is. And yes, Michael, I completely agree.
Yeah.
You know, I know I've said it privately. I'm going to say it publicly now because, damn it, I can and I want to. I have to say that both you and Michael, without going into detail, knowing that this has been extremely personal and very close, not just geographically, I want to say, in all honesty, in front of everyone, how proud I am of you for your restraint and your dignity in the face of the adversity that you have both been dealing with in your connection to it all. And as in putting my other hat on for a second, thank you for representing our organisation in the way you have.
Thank you.
Because I know that the close and personal connection to the situation. Again, privacy. I'm not going to share those details, but I know that it's been very, very, very close to you in more ways than one, and I'm proud of you both for how you've maintained a level head in situations.
It's been very, very difficult and very emotional, but it's hard to put into words, but it's just, when all this first happened, it rocked my faith a little bit, because I thought, why should I minister to these people? They could reach out to me, and what am I going to say? No, because I saw you down at that riot and it was appalling and everything. But then you take a second to reflect and to introspect a bit, and you think it is what it is. And to quote Michael, you can't always educate paint, but you can send out light, and you can send out love, and you can try and lead back to the path of what is decent and right.
Yeah.
But that's all we can do.
Yeah.
And yeah. And thank you, Kaza. I will have a big Kaza hug next time you surprise us in Liverpool or wherever this may be.
Absolutely.
But
absolutely.
no, in all seriousness, that is where I feel Spirit were testing me and saying, can you still return to ministry after all of this?
Yeah.
And the answer is yes. Because
yes, unequivocally.
Why else would you do it?
Yeah.
Because it is sometimes to reach out to those furthest away, to even bring them a couple of steps closer.
Yeah.
To what the path and the love of Spirit.
Yeah.
Because you were all somebody's father, uncle, son, grandfather, grandmother, aunt, whatever. I would, much as I would love you to come to Rotherham, Kaza, Not just at the moment. I would give it a few months.
Give it a few months. Let the dust settle and people come. And this is the thing. And Karen's working her way back from the northeast down to closer to where I am. Bless your heart. This is the thing, and you know, I'm glad you made that point, Tony, because it was something that I said to some. I've had so many conversations these last 2 weeks, I can't remember who, what, where, why, and when, let alone my own name sometimes. But I do recall saying, you know, at the end of the day, if we're only going to preach and support those that are working with us and are on the same page as us, in the words of Stephen Fry, that I don't always agree with, but he was absolutely right when it comes to religion on this score. If we're only going to provide our services to people who agree with us, what is the point of us? If we want to change the world, we don't need to work on the people that are already, you know, singing from the same hymn sheet and sitting in the same pew. It's the people on the outside that we need to bring in and show that not everybody is like that, you know. And that is the absolute message that Spirit have given. And that's where, if you don't mind, I'd like to kind of do what Spirit did and change the tone a little bit. Because I believe it was, what are we today? Friday? Yes. So yesterday's song was the Frog song. Now, everyone has noticed over the last couple of weeks that the wake up call has been more like the lunchtime rush, and I've been getting further and further into the but on Wednesday, and that was probably the worst day to do it, let's be honest, but on Wednesday I kind of, 1 second, pause that there. Happy birthday, Chrissy Wheatley. Happy birthday, darling. It's never too important to not stop and say happy birthday. But yeah, good to see you, Dal. And yeah, so on Wednesday, when literally that was that moment between everything has happened and we're told more is to come. And I sat around about lunchtime. I'd already done the morning one for that morning. And I sat and I asked for a song and I turned the radio on and they gave me the Frog song. And I wanted to record the next mornings a little bit earlier. So I was doing it a day ahead, basically. And when the Frog song came up, I really wasn't convinced. I really wasn't convinced. And I recorded it a couple of times and it was really quite somber and downbeat. My guides just turned around and said, pull your finger out your backside, cheer the hell up, and show the song for what it means. And so that's why I ended up singing at the end. Sorry, everyone.
Yeah, it could have been worse. Could have been me singing it. But yeah,
But then the next morning, there had been a shift. They knew that there was going to be a shift.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We are the same age, barring a few months, Chrissy.
Ah.
Yes, I was born December 66. I just wanted to pick up. Where is it? There was. I'm trying to see here. Carol Phillips at 16:27 and 47 seconds.
16,
put a comment about seeing the amount of people coming out with love and defending one another was so uplifting. It's slowly spreading and more people unite in freedom and peace. I love that because we were in Aldi yesterday or the day before, I can't remember. And I don't want to stereotype, but there was this lady at the checkout who I thought, oh dear, you know, looks a little bit and might well have been there. But no, said, are you? It was Wednesday. It was Wednesday because she'd said that she was friends with the lady on the checkout, and she said, "Are you going down to Rotherham on your way home?" She says, I am. She says, well, I've heard there's going to be trouble, so just be careful, love. Bloody idiots. And started on this rant, and I thought,
Yeah.
that'll teach me, judging a book.
Yes.
But the other bit, it's slowly spreading. I don't know why it is, but the voice of dissent seems to spread quicker than the voice of rationale and calm. And I don't know why. I don't know whether it's because what happens and the negativity is so shocking that it spreads like wildfire and we're aware of it quicker, or what. But it does seem to spread faster than peace and harmony and love. Don't know why. Just
I've got a theory on that.
go on.
I have got a theory on that.
Because I haven't, so it'll be
The
fascinating.
dissent and anger and vitriol is caused when people do not stop to think.
Yes.
The voice of reason requires a moment of thought to word it so that everyone can be reached by it. I also think that the silent majority issue comes into play there, that the silent majority are good and great and noble. And because the silent majority are silent, they let the noisy ones get away with it far too long. But there comes a point, as I said the other day, people worry about Generation X, worry about the silent majority, because the silent majority are the ones who make the difference. And you know what? Eunice has got a point there as well.
Yeah.
Reason and good behaviour does not the sexy headline make.
No.
And again, it goes back to shortcutting phrases and buzzwords and all that. But I genuinely think one of the main parts of it is dissent and anger and hatred is speaking before thinking. So it is that quick, instant response.
Yeah.
But when the silent majority are involved, it's like, right, okay, let's think about this. I can hear my grandparents say, right, okay, I know you're wound up, but just sit down a minute. Calm down and think about this for a moment. And again, what you said about your consideration of where you go, I had to sit down, I had to think about it and take a moment. And once again, that is why the good and the great and the noble are a little bit slower, because they're being more cautious and thoughtful about their actions and deeds. And I think that is, I think that's a huge chunk of the reason, really. But what I will say on a positive to that is that which is thrown up in an afternoon doesn't last very long. That which takes its time to grow has stronger roots.
What you said.
Thank you.
And in reply to Michael's comment to Chrissy there, they should feel a prison floor. They are going to, because they're already throwing the book at people.
Yes.
They're not messing about. They're getting hefty sentences, the ones that have already appeared through court. But where was... Oh, yes. 16:38 and 23 seconds. Just to brighten the day up even more. There we are.
Hello. I was talking about you earlier, Matthew. When you was having your meme chain of funny memes, I was telling everyone that I stuck a Star Trek one in. Good to see you, my friend. Good to see you.
Yes.
We really are a global phenomenon today, aren't we?
We are. That's Canada ticked off.
Yeah,
that's Canada ticked off. But no, and Wayne Flint, that was really unnecessary. Your comment, Tony, you was 4 when I was born.
Don't worry, I'll give him a pat on the forehead for you when I see him. He had one last night.
But no, it was. It is, and I think you're right. I think it's the people with a more reasoned, more level point of view do consider, do reflect, do think, what should I say? If I say this, this is the consequence, where I think the other side the consequences don't really matter until it's happened.
Yeah.
And they stood in front of a judge crying for the mum, like a young lad who was in Sheffield.
Yeah.
When he was
And
told
this
he
is,
was being remanded into custody.
yeah. And I mean, this is where the whole furball goes completely chaotic and completely off the deep end, with the whole idea that, there's some kind of two-tier justice going on. It feels like it when you are close to it and involved, but from what I've seen today, there's been a fair old mix of different people being given some pretty hefty sentences. And the point is, if there's evidence, there's proof, then that thy will be done. I remember being brought up. I've got to be honest. I was brought up by my mum, obviously, and a copper. Um, and there was one thing that I learned very, very early on. Even though it wasn't the '60s, most of the coppers from round here were very '60s style. If you misbehaved, you got a scolding. Before that, when it was allowed, you'd get a clip round the ear. If you did not report back to your parents and say what you had done before Mr. Policeman did, you got another one. I didn't get into a great deal of trouble. I mean, this isn't my fields of wheat moment. Don't panic. So, I never got caught running, letting my midriff be brushed gently by sheaves of wheat. I wish I had done. I'd have probably had more fun as a teenager. But sorry, did you have a visual there, darling?
Yeah.
But yeah,
Oh.
I was biking down the main street the wrong way, and there was a very well-known policeman in our area with a very booming voice. Oi! Off! And I got off, and before I'd even got off the bike, he'd got his hand on my shoulder, and he went, Brown, make sure your father finds out you've been told off before I tell him, won't you? You're not going to do it again, are you? And it was then done with.
Mm.
You know what? He's absolutely right, because when I walked past that point, and this is like 20 years ago, oh crikey, 30 years ago. I was going to say it's only 20 years, no, 30 years ago. This was 30 years. I still cannot help but hear his voice booming when I walk past that point where he shouted. And, but it's like you said right at the beginning, it's about the way we are breeding that kind of attitude, where there does, yes, there you go, on the nail as always. She had a good day in Circle Monday. Remind me to tell you about it later.
Oh, okay.
That was when things got sorted before they got out of hand. It was called respect. Absolutely. Jumping in on that one, the lovely Shelly-Ann. People had respect, including kids, back in the 1950s and 60s. And whilst I've got your Cherry, again, can we all send our thoughts out to Cherry and her family? Especially when we have the silent minute gathered together tonight, those that join us. But please send your thoughts. We are with you, my sweet pea.
Yes, yes. It's awful.
Yeah.
Grief and loss is a dreadful thing, even though we know people have gone on to a wonderful place. It's, yeah, respect. And I always agree with the sentiment that respect is earned, not a right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's just craziness. It's craziness. And
yes,
yeah, and the other thing that got me was staying silent about things over the past few weeks, because you know me, it's like, but it's like I can't say that. I can't jump on and talk about that, because in our business, what other organisations do within themselves is up to them. But
Yeah, I think for me, what the biggest takeout is one thing that I've noticed. Uh, I mean, I hate. I always told myself, and I'm sure everyone here was the same. When I get to that age, I'm not going to say when I was younger or in my day. And I won't be referencing how long I've been doing something because, but you end up doing it, you can't help it.
No.
In the time that I've been a spiritualist since 1998, I keep saying it's 25 years, it's actually 26 now, which is even more scary, coming up on 27 in November. Um, One of the things that I've noticed that the positive and the negative of this way of life is the same thing. The positive of this way of life is that it is open to many different ways of working, many different ways of life. It is open to different opinions, thoughts, and ideas. That's what makes it big and beautiful. However, what it also does is it gives the opportunity for people to make use of it without necessarily representing the highest and noblest ideals of this way of life. And so there is a mixture of decent, everyday spiritual folk who just want to live their lives and be happy. There's a mixture of service providers who are trying to support their communities, their friends, their loved ones. And then you got these people who also are joining in who just want to be in charge and tell people how to think. And because with that there comes this responsibility of the mediumship, people quite often pass off their own views as the word of spirit. And that is where we have gone down a dangerous path. And I've seen it not recently, it's been there a long time, building and building and building to the point where I have seen spiritualists arguing with each other, saying the most hateful, vitriolic, and spiteful things without that let's sit down and talk about it, let's communicate. It's just like, yeah, well, you're deceived, you don't know what you're talking about, you're ignorant, you're wrong. No, that's not what we are about. And the silent majority again must raise its voice and say this does not represent us. Karen darling, I look forward to seeing you on Monday morning. My petal flower will be back together putting the world to rights, yet again, just like me and Tony this afternoon. But it's so good to see you, Karen. Hope you've had a wonderful trip away. Love you, darling. Love you, darling. But yeah, it's been building and building and building because spiritualism has not always been about a way of life. And even those that disagree on whether it's a way of life or religion, that's not the issue. It's those that come in and use it as a social club, really.
Yeah.
And that's not to derogate the social side of it, because we were actually there until 11 o'clock last night. Me, Tony, Eunice, Adi, and Mum chewing the fat until about 11 o'clock because we were saying this is what the best part of it is. It is the social side. But when it's turned into a social club without the spirituality, I mean, this is why, a week ago I was resharing Desiderata and the spiritualist code, which was the Golden Chains ways of living, because it's more than just a get together. It means something to the people, because I don't know about anybody else, but people tend to come into this way of life because they have issues, problems, and questions.
Yes.
And they stay because they've got them and they want to share them on to the next generation. And that, for me, is what spiritualism is all about.
I agree. It's about, I always say that people who walk through the door of a spiritualist church, centre, meeting, wherever it may be, are in need of something. They may not know what it is they need, but they are in need of something. and that's why they come through the door. And the reason they stay is because what they hear and what they experience resonates.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted to pick Kai's point about if we keep giving the troubles spotlight, do we not perpetuate it? I think what we need to do, especially as ministers, what we need to do is to look at it, analyze it, and think, what are the issues? What is this really about? And to see where we need to put our efforts and what can be done. And as a community, a spiritual community, LGBTQ plus community, asylum community, whatever community you're in, it's what can we do to try and mitigate some of these issues in future, to try and build bridges between communities so that people don't see people as other, as less than, as different, just as people with individuality, and that's what makes us beautiful and that's what makes us special. And so I think there has to be some sort of looking back and lessons learned exercise. There's something organised in Rotherham to look at where different community groups were and how they've reacted to it, and to learn lessons from what's happened and what could we do differently, what could we do quicker, what could we do better. But I think there's a difference between perpetuating and looking at it from a perspective of what was behind this, what was the stuff that was feeding this, where did this come from? Because it's been building, like you said earlier, Nick, for months and months and months and months. This tensions have been rising, and I think as ministers, exactly, we should be looking at
ways of
where could we plug some of those holes and build those bridges so that people are more aware, and people can look at unity through individuality.
Who knew that 3 years ago that would be so appropriate today? You know?
But that's just my take on it. I'm not saying there's a right and wrong. I'm just saying that's my view and that's my perspective.
I agree, and I would like to come on it. I do absolutely get where that comes from, because certainly when it comes to the reason the problems became so inflamed is because it was share and share and share and share and jump on. Somebody earlier on said about jumping on the bandwagon. I think it might have been Sarah.
Yes,
absolutely. The problem is inflamed by giving those words more airtime, more note. But in this instance, would not pointing it out and sharing the opposing view would not have made a slightest bit of difference, because they would have still done it. I think it's about finding that balance of how we do it. And there was a point in the week where I was starting to get desperate and angry and grumpy, and it was pointed out to me, and I acknowledge that, but it doesn't mean that we have to be all sparkles and love and light all the time. Sometimes honest, harsh truths do have to be shared and discussed. But again, it comes back to what we've been saying right the way through. It's about how that conversation happens, about making sure that everybody is saying, this is my view, what's yours?
Yeah.
Because if we don't do that, it's going to be a constant backwards and forwards. Hate breeds hate. Blood calls out for blood are all phrases that keep us perpetually angry. I love that there's this quote that springs to mind. Um, Another one of those famous mistakes of the Christian quoting. You know, Christians apparently believe in an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Actually, if they've read their Bible, they don't. Yes, it says it in the Old Testament, but the bloke who's in charge of Christianity, that lovely Yeshua Carpenter, he turned round and said, "Would you support a system that leaves you all blind and toothless?" No, do it a different way, because that's where turn the other cheek came in the same sentence. So
Yeah.
we should discuss things, but we cannot ever stop communicating, because the minute we do, that's where those that are going to share it no matter what are just going to continually spiral further and further and further and further away into a cycle of hate. We
Mm,
have to have an open, honest, sensible conversation. And so, absolutely, there are certain people whose things that they have said, I am not sharing, and I would not share. And there are
no.
certain things that I will not share, but I must, in my role as you said, as a minister, being a minister, and I know we've got a few ministers on here today, being a minister and being a medium can sometimes be a bit confusing, because although the roles do overlap, being a medium who gives out philosophy and being a minister are two very different scenarios and cover very different bases. And sometimes I have to interact and behave, this is minister today, and sometimes it's medium with some philosophy. But I know we've got some ministers online today, and that are not part of the alliance as well, although they are always welcome. I know Ashley is with us today, and I know that you have had a recent journey into ministry compared to us old farts. So have you, Ashley, noticed that there is a difference between your role as a medium and your role as a minister, and that it can sometimes be a bit blurred and confusing for us sometimes, because we do have a very different job when it comes to ministry. Ministry is much about extending the hand and calling things out, where the medium and philosophy is very much love and light and bring people together. And although
Yeah,
they sound the same, they are really quite a tightrope to walk sometimes. But
absolutely they are.
just my,
Yeah.
my, my thought.
Yes, yes. I'm just trying to catch up on some of
Mm.
the
But
comments.
really, I do have to say, Kai, I'm glad you said that, because it is an important thing that when it comes to
Absolutely.
shining a spotlight and keep, getting in a row about it, that is that cycle that is constantly misquoted with the
Mm,
eye for an eye thing.
yeah,
So good call, lady. She's had quite a few of them this week, I will tell you.
really.
If you want to know who's to blame for my new look on the music thing, look right there. Couldn't you have a better background, darling? Yeah, I really should. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Where was something caught my eye and I can't find it now? Oh, Sherry Ann, I would be interested in a minister's meeting to share ideas, etc.
that's
Absolutely.
that is something actually that I really would love. I can't find it, but I did see it. Um,
It's about 16:53 and 40 seconds.
Oh, I've gone too far then, as usual. I always spool too quick. There we go. Yeah, really good point. Really good point. I think we should. Um, I mean, I know we have our circles and our discussions, but it's just like us. It should be more,
Mm.
especially with the changes that we've got coming up. Lots of news coming there soon. That would be a perfect opportunity. Uh,
um, I like Ashley. Oh, heck yeah. Mind you, my mediumship has never been lovely and light. I was never a unicorn and sparkles medium.
no. No, you sell it, bless you. But yeah, it is difficult sometimes.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Oh,
Okay.
well said, James Wheatley Bradford.
I have some very strong views and opinions on this subject, but I'll try and keep it as respectful as possible. There's the first tick. I don't agree with the extreme actions on either side. Well said. You can't combat extremism with more extremism. I don't think, and I don't like hypocrites. Do you believe that when we should be offering a safe haven to people who need it? Absolutely. The problem is we give away a lot more than we should simply because we're one of the richest countries in the world, and it is thrown in our faces by a small number of individuals, all of whom ruin it for the genuine refugees. Do you know what?
Yeah,
Bravo.
yeah.
Right there, and that does actually tie in very much with what with what Kai was saying as well. You
It
know that
is. It is.
and to be fair, I think we did point out right at the beginning there are always two sides of the coin, plus the one in between, which is more, you know,
Of
the
an edge.
unifying, the edge, which is the unifier of the two sides. Or to quote something, and Kai, please, please, please don't break your chair when your head goes backwards giggling. Understanding is a three-edged sword. She'll know what I'm on about there. Babylon.
Yeah.
Babylon quote.
Babylon 5 quote.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I'm all for open, respectful discussion about things, no matter what the topic, be it refugees and asylum seekers, be it the economics of the country at the minute, be it politics, be it whatever, religion. It's the respect and the moderated debate which is important. Once you descend into extremism and ranting and slamming fists, you've lost the argument as far as I'm concerned there.
Ashley, I'm going to correct you on something there. The wrapper might be different, but the flavour is absolutely the same. I think it would be wonderful to have you join in on that.
Absolutely.
The more that different, or see, this is where hope springs. If different organisations were to come together and be involved in a more substantiated way without excluding and pushing each other out, then this is where differences can be made. So you know what, once I've got a little chore sorted out in relation to what I would like to have happen, and that's all confirmed and done, we will arrange a ministers meeting for all of our ministers. And you, of course, are absolutely welcome, and any of your colleagues who wish to join us on that one as well. Thank you. Yes.
Yes. Toodle pip, Carol Phillips.
See you later, Carol, darling. Be good.
Yes, and if you can't be good, be careful.
Yeah, I don't know where that one would go. We've been having some fun this week. It's been a really, really busy week, actually, and been great to see so many people interacting.
Yeah, it has been. I mean, we literally, I walked in, we took somebody out who has been afraid to leave the house for over a week. So we took him out and we got him out and walking about and doing things, and then walked in, got my shirt on, made a coffee, sat down and started talking to Nick. So it's been very busy, very busy.
James, and once again, I know that Kai will probably remember what you're talking about, and I certainly do. If you are referring to the push the button speech, I absolutely agree with you. In actual fact, I will. If you can grab hold it quicker than I can, share it, mate. Tag me in it, because you are absolutely spot on with that speech.
Was it that one, or was it the?
Because there was a couple where
Davros one. The Davros when he was on the battlefields. The hand mine.
Yes, there was the hand mines, and then there was the one
push the button one.
The push the button one. There's been the Peter Capaldi's era. The writing was so understated and underrated, and some of the things that came out of that man's voice was absolutely amazing. And
Yeah.
James, I completely agree with you. If you find it and share it before I do, tag me in it. If not, I'll tag you and comment. It's oh yeah, it was 2 or 3 weeks before the Paris. Yes, it was. You're correct.
It was, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, we sci-fi geeks. We know. We know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Poor old Kai. I made a comment on Thursday when we were together, and I kind of deliberately did a bit of a sci-fi quote, and suddenly there was just this look of incredulous humour on her face, as if to say, "You're a bugger, you." Yeah, here we go. There we go. He's there. You go. That's the link. Well done, mate. That's the link. Absolutely, absolutely. Wonderful. Well, would you, Adam and Eve? It is 5:10.
It is. It is. Where did that go?
Out there. Out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've already recorded tomorrow morning's song, so we'll see how the night goes
Ooh.
and how that will play out. Again, so even though it's done in the same day, I've got into the habit of changing the shirt so it don't look like I'm wearing the same one for 4 days in a row. It's a bit like a fashion show in here today. I've got my green screen. You know, this is amazing. I've got to say, it attaches to the back of my chair. So I've got my green screen, I've got my microphone, I've got my wardrobe all open, and my other half will be pretty annoyed that I've worn about 5 or 6 different items of clothing on the same day, so the washing machine will be taken up all weekend, but I don't care. I do it for you lovely people, to bring you an uplift to your morning, and I hope you're all enjoying it. So there we are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's been some belters.
Well, it's all on them. I mean, I've had to change the way I do it from today because I ain't got a car no more. We need 2 hours of 2 revs for none last week. Sorry, your secretary didn't tell you. I'm afraid that's not going to work like that because
No,
I
no.
have to go and cook tea.
And I'm gasping for a cuppa.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's actually like the set of the Anchorman. It's been fun doing it, but I've got to change the way I do it because I've been going down to the car and turning the radio on. Well, now the car is 6 miles away,
Oh.
so I'm having to do it a different way now. Oh, yes, and there she is referencing this morning's sci-fi geek out as well. It's been a long time getting from there to here. Absolutely. Now, are you referencing the song or referencing my way of presenting it? Because I have to. Do you know what? I've got to say it, Ashley. You are absolutely right, but I don't have Alexa. I have Gemini. It's a Google Samsung thing.
Oh, right.
So I ask Gemini. And literally, it's wired into YouTube Music, so I can literally say, "Hey Google, play a random song for me," and it does.
And it will.
Called it. It's trying to do it now. I did that with Mum on the way home from a service the other day, and oh my god, I can't play it, otherwise we'll get monetized and shot down. But it has started playing a song, and if I pause it so you can't hear it, but then show you what it is. That's what we were just given. Dennis Waterman,
wow.
could be so good for you. The theme tune to Minder. I could be so good for you. Love you like you want me to. I would do anything for you. Ooh, ooh, ooh. I could be there for you. Doom, 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 doom,
Yeah.
doom.
Brilliant.
Um,
Well, Kazzy, you'll be watching a blank screen for about 45, 50 minutes, dear, if you've booked yourself for 2 hours.
Or what you could do is go for a pee, an empty and a refill break.
Yes.
Uh,
And then watch it again.
and then watch it again.
There you go.
There you go.
Problem solved.
But yeah, that asking for a song from Spirit is just like they used to use with Bibles, poetry. We used to use the old spiritualist hymn book.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, the tiny thick ones with all of the wonderful,
The
you know,
blue
yeah,
cover. Yes.
yeah, held together with red masking tape, white masking tape, blue duct tape, black duct tape, all
Yeah.
of those other ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the problem with saying what I said. I've just set everyone's tablets off.
Yeah.
I do that in circle when I say that. I do apologise, everyone. But yeah, it is exactly the same. And they all, if you ask Spirit, give me a message, and then say that phrase that I'm not going to do again. The stuff they come out with is absolutely beautiful. So yeah, it's yes, bless you, Cherry. Yes, you did say about that. You when Colin passed the other day, Cherry asked for a song and got quite an emotional one, and it was a beautiful, touching moment, and tied in with some of the things that she'd been seeing from Spirit as well. But it's amazing.
It is. It is.
Write the theme tune, sing the theme tune, star in a movie.
Yeah.
Bless you.
They
Well,
were naughty.
that they were.
Yeah.
Well, Tony, it's been a pleasure to be
It's
back.
been an absolute joy, and I can't wait for next week.
Yes, and friends, thank you all for joining in, engaging in the conversation. Thank you for your truth, your honesty, but also proving that we spiritual folk can have a conversation. Long may the silent majority be joyfully uplifting and passionate and truthful and kind. So from me, God bless you all. Tony, God bless you, mate.
God bless you. God bless everybody, and we'll see you soon.
Certainly will. And because it's been so long, and just to bump up the minutes for Kaz's booking, here's the outro.